What's going on, guys? Aarav here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 51 today for a bit of a Canadian Grand Prix review, and then kind of a sum up of all the news in Formula 1, I guess. It's been a while since we've done the podcast. Obviously, there was a whole week break as I was in LA. These two did a video on their respective channels about the Canadian Grand Prix, so you might have heard about their opinions already, but I've seen plenty of comments about where's the podcast, so it's finally back, and you're back with the usual host, myself, Aarav, Callum, and Tom. So, obviously, you guys saw it, fully live. I watched about 10, 12 laps of it live in LA, then missed the rest of it, then watched kind of some replays back. But it appeared to be a bit of a madness, really, a bit of a mad Grand Prix, and probably, I would say, one of the best ones so far, yeah? I want to kind of...
the best dry race of the season.
Best dry race.
It's hard to compare it against China because that was wet, But definitely the best dry race, the most amount of overtaking, because obviously Canada just exposes all the overtaking because dirty air is just not a thing around there. But the amount of overtaking, the crashes, just the general hecticness, and even race strategy kind of did spice it up a little bit as well. So overall, solid race.
Yeah, I think a big theme of the race was there was a bit of confusion at one point whether the super soft or the soft would be a good tyre, and obviously Ricciardo went for a soft, Hamilton went for a soft, but then people like the Force Indias and the Ferraris went for super softs. So that sort of spiced up the secondary phase of the race, because obviously the ultra soft was definitely the best race tyre, but obviously because most people started on that tyre, then everyone had to use the harder compounds. But obviously you could see that in the end when the Ferraris went onto the ultra soft at the end, they were literally pounding around that track at an incredible rate of knots. And I do want to just make a small caveat on that, because I spoke about it in my video, but watching him back, apparently the lap times that was doing were absolutely ridiculous when he was chasing the pack and then ultra soft. Yeah, because obviously we know Hamilton popped in that incredible lap on super soft after, but apparently the pace he was running for so many laps consistently was something they hadn't seen all weekend. It was alien.
Well, that's quite interesting, because when Ferrari, when teams, when they bring in their driver for a second stop, or one more stop than the usual, and the team go, right, you've got 8 laps, you're going to catch them with 8 laps to go, then you can have a bit of fun. And when we all heard that, I thought, that's not going to happen. Vettel does not have the pace to cruise up to the back of the Force Indias, as well as his teammate. Obviously, his teammate moved out the way quite easily. Some people pointed towards a conspiracy on that one. Raikkonen just had brake issues. And then... But he cruised it to the back. I think it was 6 laps to go, so they were a little bit off with the 8 laps, but still 6 laps to go. He made up an entire pit stop, and he managed to pass both Force Indies as well, because both of them were tripping over each other.
Yeah, that was
the bit. Whether have you caught up on that incident?
Yeah, that was the bit I did see, when he was passing the Force Indies, the move he made on, I think it was Ocon, the second Force India, very, very close stuff. That was awesome to watch, just little wiggle, just to make sure he had enough room there on the left-hand side. That was an absolutely awesome move, and yeah, it was impressive, because I watched the first 12 laps, and I actually had this in my because I've vlogged my reaction to the first 12 laps, and I was like, Vettel's in 17th here. I'm gonna predict he's gonna get up to P6 or something like that, and he went one further than that, and obviously I think he ended up getting the driver of the day, didn't he? Not? I think, yeah, so well deserved, because it was quite a drive, really, and that's kind of championship levels of driving you need to do, when you have such a poor first kind of opening stint where you need to make that extra pit stop. That's kind of what makes or breaks a kind of championship kind of bout, kind of sticking in it and not losing as many points as he could have to Hamilton, who in the end kind of just had the measure over Bottas and everyone over the entire rest of the field. I guess obviously one of the main ones at the beginning of the Grand Prix was Verstappen. Absolutely amazing start, and then unfortunately, just...
He's getting very disgruntled with Renault, and he's been firing some
him and
shots
Horner
this week. Have been getting really disgruntled.
Well, I saw
2018.
Yeah, I saw that article where he was saying, Renault have actually said they may not have an upgrade till 2018, which was wow, how crap are you? If they have to wait till 2018 for a substantial upgrade, I know Honda are bad, but Renault are now slowly teetering towards the same standard as them, the same crap standard. If
there's anything that we've learned, it's the fact that an upgrade doesn't normally bring that much. If we think about it, when people go, oh yeah, we've got an upgrade, obviously so far this season, the biggest upgrade that Red Bull brought basically just kept them in the exact same position.
Oh yeah, that massive B-spec car.
Yeah, the B-spec car. So if it's, in this day and age of Formula 1, an upgrade doesn't bring that much, it doesn't seem at the minute. So that's the thing, if they delay it to 2018, there's no guarantee that engine's actually going to be any good at all.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's it's fine line for Renault. Really, I don't know where they go from here because they can't get anything from upgrades. They try a Honda and redesign the engine and risk falling back even more, or are they just hoping and holding out till 2020 when the new engine regs maybe come in? If they do, then that's going to be quite detrimental for them and Red Bull, maybe in terms of Red Bull might start looking elsewhere. And we've already had murmurs of maybe McLaren. So many experts are now saying that they've finalize the divorce in informally terms, people just saying by the body language, what they've said in the press, in the public, it all kind of just points to the fact that they're ready to depart Honda and partner back with Mercedes. And we've had those rumors now. I don't know if you two saw, also Williams may go to Honda. We've had some reports of that. Obviously Sauber agreed with Honda, a few races ago. So yeah, it's now, coming in for Renault. Will Renault stick around with Red Bull? Will Red Bull divorce them? So there's a lot of divorces going on with engine-wise in Formula One. And once again, engines are the kind of forefront of the arguments.
Yeah. I think Red Bull is another case of them pointing fingers and not at themselves.
Right.
For me, I watched the Canada race, and for example, I remember Hulkenberg overtaking Stroll, and I think it was Magnussen. It was a 3-car scrap, and he breezed past the pair of them in a straight. And that's a Renault power unit. So I don't think the pain is the problem. I think we all know Red Bull, their car is not as good as they think it is. So I think it's a case of them, as they always do, just point fingers at other people. So I don't know.
Quite interestingly, you coming off the back of that little 3-way scrap, just I'm kind of redirecting this conversation here. But the overtaking, I mentioned this in my video. It was very, I don't know what the word, I think ruthless might be a bit of a word, but very aggressive and quite forward-fronting. It was a lot of darting. I think that was the best way to put it. There was a lot of moments where there was a lot of blocking, but I also almost quite like it. It was the most aggressive and ruthless race so far this season, because obviously it's so narrow. Obviously that makes it a little bit more obvious, but obviously obviously you saw some of the overtakes at the end of the race, but I don't know about you, Tom. Throughout the entire race, it was very ruthless. A lot of the moves and the aggressive overtaking and defending, but I quite liked it.
No, I think it's just a theme of this season. I think the dirty air, I think, has basically pushed drivers to the point of almost ingraining in their DNA that when there is an overtaking opportunity, you have to take it, or vice versa if you're defending. So therefore, I think you just put that extra 5% when it comes to aggressiveness and just extra fight you put in to try and get the position. So obviously, the Ocon Perez one, Vettel turn 1, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Magnussen.
I was hearing a lot about that on Twitter. That little scrap.
Yeah,
it was
great scrap.
Yeah. I do want to make a
Speaking
small
about
caveat.
Speaking about Stroll getting points now.
Stroll.
Yeah, Stroll getting points for all the shit we've given him and everyone's given him. I think fair play that he's gone and just got points, got on the board at least. I think for his sake, I don't really care too much. It'd be good to see him. I don't have anything against him, so it'd be good to see if he improved from here on. Maybe he can take that momentum into the next race or so. But it's the first Canadian to score points since Villeneuve, is it not? So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty big for him at his home race. I mean, for anywhere to do it, to kick off his season, it'd be a great place for him to kick off. Let's see at Austria if he continues to roll on.
And the fact that he got himself stuck in as well.
Yeah. He was actually making overtakes.
This is what my qualm is, I was going to say before. A small caveat. Right. I was watching him overtake. I don't know if you watched it when he was trying to get past Alonso, for example. Any other driver, I feel like, for example, on the back straight and the DRS is wide open, he breezed up to the back of Alonso and he got alongside him the first time round. And he could have gone past him and they had the speedometer up as well on the screen. But he was getting out the throttle, he was not committed enough to go around the outside. And he could have easily just, with the speed he had gone past him and already had a head start, and then he could have just shut the door on Alonso. And also there was someone else, I think it was Magnussen, I want to say. Same thing again. He went up the inside of the final chicane this time, and even then he couldn't make it move. And he was much faster. He was coming in with DRS, and it's not a question of out braking. You can hear him get out of the throttle.
Right. Yeah.
He was getting out of it, and I was a bit like,
It
I
sounds a bit odd.
that. I didn't.
Sounds a bit odd. Yeah, that sounds very odd.
Not sure about that. But if I try and get an onboard, I'll show you after. But
if he was
I saw that and I was a bit like, yeah, I know, but I mean,
because obviously
if Verstappen
we all
retired,
said, didn't we?
Obviously,
everyone on Twitter was like, "Oh, who's going to end up in the World of Champions? Is it going to be Palmer or is it going to be Stroll?" Obviously, neither did, but obviously Stroll probably didn't want to end up in that war whilst he's in the points. But yeah, that's quite an odd thing for Stroll. But I thought at least he tried. He was getting stuck in because we haven't seen any sort of overtaking from him so far this season. So the fact that he was pulling off moves, it was a lot more smooth. I think every race that we go by, his driving style becomes smoother and smoother. Because I think, I don't know, I think it was Coulthard, or I know some pundit brought it up with the fact that he'd love Stroll, they'd love to show Stroll Hamilton's pole lap. Because I'm guessing both of you might have saw it. Smooth as shit. That was buttery smooth. That was like the hand movements and everything was just obviously it's different cars, but just a similar sort of driving style, especially with these cars. I think just this general era of Formula One. As much as you need to be aggressive, you still need to be very buttery smooth with his controls. But still, fair play to him. He got his points. Let's see if he can carry on and doesn't end up in the wall.
And there was also I guess another major point of the Grand Prix, at least from the outside, looking back on like Twitter and everything, and I kind of caught up with it, was like the whole farce with Kvyat coming in with penalties, and like the FI the stewards seemed to get it like they were like, oh, we got it wrong, just send him in again. It's just like
I got really confused with all that because I got in for the race start as soon as they were on the grid, so I missed what happened before.
I think what happened was, F1 Fanatic tried to explain it. He apparently, in an overall sense, Kvyat didn't lose any more time than he should have. Apparently, because initially he was supposed to get the harsher penalty, the 10-second stop go, but obviously they gave him a drive-through first, then they gave him a 10-second time penalty, which he could have served in his pit box when he made the next pit stop, or at the end of the race, and just added to his time. So in general fact, so if you add up the pit lane loss of the drive-through, as well as, because obviously if he was going to take another pit stop, he would have lost that time anyway. So by adding that onto his pit stop, that doesn't matter. I don't know whether you can catch my drift here, but overall he didn't lose more time than he really deserved. He still lost in equivalent to a 10-second stop go.
Right.
It's just, I think they gave him.
Wait, did he do a whole? Because I didn't watch this part because this was in the middle of the Grand Prix. Did he do the actual drive-through, like go through down the entire pit lane?
He did do a drive-through. Yeah.
So how much does a drive-through lose you?
It was probably about 15 seconds.
Pit lane exit.
Oh no, apparently. Yeah, 15, 14
But then,
seconds.
Surely then he's lost 25 seconds, basically. And if it was if instead you just gave him a 10-second stop go, and he would have naturally probably added that to one of his pit stops if he had known about it, that would have only been a 10-second loss in the pit lane added on to the natural pit stop.
But I think because he was going to make another pit stop, that's why Toro also made a decision to take the 10-second then. To be fair, I'm just about as confused as everyone else.
Yeah.
Either way, the FIA really fucked up with that because
he retired from the race, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he retired as well. So
I don't. That doesn't sit well with me. I don't think the stewards should ever be like, "Oh, we got it wrong. Just add some more time to him." Like that's your decision at the end of the day. It's like if a referee in football was like, "Oh, sorry, I sent him off by mistake." Or you only got a yellow card earlier. I'm going to change that to I'm going to change that to a straight red like 10 minutes later. It's just like you made the decision. Just accept your decision and just get roasted on Twitter for it, and that's it.
You know what I think? What happened was I think the FIA gave him a drive-through. Then he took his drive-through, and they realised, wait a minute, that wasn't harsh enough because he's not far enough down the field. He's lost I think he lost literally a position in the drive-through. Like he didn't lose any put it this way, he didn't lose many positions at all.
But I think there it's like when it's like penalty, I think it should be time, not position. Like how much time did you realistically cause pain to another driver or something by your action, rather than position? Because sometimes position and time doesn't equal the same amount. I feel because depending on the gaps, especially in the midfield to the top front runners, and then the back markers. There's not really back markers in a sense this year, but like. sometimes it just doesn't equate because the gaps are so large sometimes between these cars now in the new era. So
well, even the reason he got the penalty was quite. Yeah, because obviously he dropped to the back of the field, and obviously the amount of times we've heard Brundle say, you've got to rejoin at the back, he made his way. Apparently, they can still make their way through the field before the first safety car line, and then he's got to park up in a position or something like that. But,
well, his engineer, like even was like, yep. So it's like, okay, so it wasn't even really his fault. Okay, but...
Yeah, the amount of times that a team's told them wrong, but I'm going to go.
Yeah, that was basically the story of the Canadian Grand Prix, just a bit of a recap. And then after that, basically, Palmer's been put under pressure by Renault, because obviously, same story as last season, he hasn't really been performing majorly. And also, it just happens to be that last week, an old face tested a Renault car in Valencia, a man by the name of Robert Kubica, depending on how you want to call it. So, I'll put it out on Twitter. I think I could see it's happening for next year if all goes according to plan. And now, Palmer's under pressure.
It would be one of the greatest comebacks in F1, really, to see him come back after what happened, quite annoyingly to him, in the off season. And this would be like what? That's 2011, so it would be like 6 years, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh.
That's that would be some kind of story. And the fact that in that test it was like he got up to speed. He got up to speed, and he was like quite confident.
Well,
I think it was.
I'll say this: the reports have been mixed. So like he did the test, and he was like, "I've lost a lot," as in compared to what I had. But then as the days have gone on, he's sort of gone like saying, "I feel like I can now drive an F1 car again at the top level. I feel the fittest I've ever felt before in my life." So as the days have gone by, it's almost like I had a bit of reflection on how the day went, and he obviously thinks with a bit of testing and progress, he could get to that level again. Obviously, we've got to remember 2012 Lotus car is not at the same level as one of the 2017 beasts, so something to take into account. But I'm all for it. I'd love to see him.
To be honest, even like
in one of these cars,
I think even him at like not even his top level would still be better than Palmer. So
yeah, I mean that's pretty true actually.
Like I think.
Yeah, I think the story's nice as a whole. The poetic justice in the fact that his last time he drove an F1 car was at that track in Valencia, and he drove one at the same track 7 years later for the same team, and also on the weekend of the Grand Prix where he's only won his only race. So there's a lot of poetic justice in all of that, you could say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. And I think even like outside, I don't know if it was the Renault mechanics exactly, the engineers exactly, or just people in the paddock as well. Just saying that actually no, he's kind of being very modest. That he did look pretty damn good out there to say that he hasn't been in the car for so long. And like I think he racked up like 125 or even more laps. That's quite very decent.
Yeah, more. Yeah,
that was a big test session. Big test session.
A lot of laps.
Yeah.
I got to say
a lot of laps.
So he weren't messing around. 100. I think it was 150 something.
And from like a marketing standpoint, it would be also huge for like Renault to like tie that in, like Kubica's back with us. All round it would be a very good feel story for F1, for him, for Renault. There's no losses there.
Progress. Yeah, there's no progress.
Yeah.
Like if you have a 2018 Renault, which is even better than this year's car with Hulkenberg and Kubica at the wheel.
Oh.
You're starting to think to yourself, watch out.
Hang on here.
These guys are back. Yeah. So, it would definitely be a statement. And if he is up to the level he once was or near that level, then...
for sure. Yeah, good feel story. Good. Definitely one of the kind of good moments for Renault, I guess, because there's obviously, aside from Hulkenberg, it's been a lot of negative stuff with Palmer. So, yeah, I reckon that would be very, very good for him, for Renault. As I said, there's no kind of loss apart from Palmer, but he's only got himself to blame for that, really. So I guess the next bit of news to then go through would be a bit of news for the Malaysian Grand Prix, and we kind of discussed the tyre compounds and this issue with the hard tyre compounds. So obviously Pirelli, after Spain, kind of the entire F1 world realised the hard tyres basically suck ass this season, and so they changed it at Silverstone already. We won't have the hard tyres there, and the last two places that would have had the hard tyres would be Malaysia and Japan. I don't think there's been a decision on Japan quite yet, but Malaysia, we won't be seeing the hard tyres. So there's only one circuit left potentially that will have the hard tyres. Malaysia, they'll be taking the super softs to, and it will be like a case of the mandatory tyre will be probably like end up being like the medium and the soft maybe. So that's good. That's good because I think Malaysia as well, like Spain in the past, has been kind of hampered by the fact that it is a high deg track, but also the fact that we've usually taken probably 1-2 hard tyres to it. So it's ended up being quite a boring kind of strategy Grand Prix wise. And especially for Spain, I mean, looking back at this year's Grand Prix and looking back at previous Grand Prix where in like 2013 where we had 4 pit stops, I think that was quite exciting for it because there's a lot of changing, there's a lot of strategy work there. And so to have that in Malaysia would be quite good. And
yeah, I mean, you say that, that's the thing. That's where F1 for me, if they get the balance right, because 4-stop races when you're using the hardest available tyres, not really.
Well, yeah, in this case we wouldn't be. In this case we wouldn't be.
I think... I think it's the right choice from what I gathered from the press report. I remember them quoting, that this change means that probably we won't see the hard tyre anymore this season. So
that's quite big.
That's a good thing. So good change. Helps the action. It's a tyre that doesn't provide any major racing. So
Force India, wink wink, are thinking they may be changing the name. So
Force India.
So can I have my royalty in the check, please? In like when you make that name change, probably within 2 weeks of that being done, please, royalty.
Especially if it involves Monster.
Small loan of $1 million. I think that'll be fine. I'll accept that, Force India. So thanks for that. And then I guess moving on then, Grand Prix kind of preview, and with that, I think Tom, you had a few thoughts on Mercedes because obviously you kind of saw it more than me about their performance over the weekend, and they looked from my perspective, they looked a lot stronger. Obviously, Ferrari bottled the start a little bit. Raikkonen had brake issues. Obviously, Vettel unfortunate to have that front wing damage at the start, but generally. They had the pace, and Lewis looked very, very comfy out in front of the Canadian Grand Prix. And so could this be a bit of a resurgence for them and a bit of a excitement starting to spark once again this Ferrari-Mercedes fight with now Mercedes coming back with a punch?
I think it could be. From what I've gathered, Bottas was really happy with how the car drove. Hamilton also, he feels like he's got that sort of inconsistency from the first part of the season where he's like, first one race, then fourth in Sochi, then second here, third here, then it feels like he's sort of gotten rid of that inconsistency. And I mean, he was bulletproof around Montreal when he dropped that fast lap almost right at the end on super softs on a used set. That was a big statement. And Toto Wolff was also saying midweek that earlier this week about how they've been working 24/7, like legit 24/7. 24-hour days. So I think up to 10 days in a row between Monaco and Canada to try and sort out the niggling issues that they had at Monaco. So Mercedes really working flat out, and I've got to say right now the pendulum has sort of swung back in their favour now with their first 1-2 of the season, believe it or not, in Canada. So I didn't realise. It's only when they did like the post-race interviews and they were like, so your first 1-2 of the season, how do you feel? And I was a bit like, wow, it's their first 1-2. So there you go. So I think, the pendulum definitely swung back in their favour. Obviously, Ferrari had their mishaps. But it definitely it helps because it's good to have this constant sort of tug of war.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. This is what you want.
Ferrari just seemed like they were starting to get a bit constantly slightly better than Mercedes, I'd even say. But now Mercedes was sort of just swinging back a bit.
It's
now,
good.
So it's sort of like constantly
this is what we want. This is what
clanging
we want.
and banging. So
back and forth. That's what you want. I don't think it would be equally boring if Ferrari just kind of walked away with it. Then it was like just them constantly on top. I think it's good that we have this punch back. It's generally known to be a power circuit. Obviously, you're on the throttle for quite a long time. Could we finally see maybe we'll finally kind of have more of an engine kind of feud? Because so far it's been kind of Ferrari looks like the more comfortable race car because of its better aero and better chassis. But now maybe the engine will be a bit more of the deciding factor, so we get a bit of an inkling there. I think for teams like Force India, it could be another great weekend for them. Power circuit once again, obviously not very different to Canada really in a sense, but I see no reason why Force India wouldn't be strong. Red Bull, they may have a tricky weekend, and
I've got a feeling they may do better than what people think.
Really?
Purely because their car, the simplistic aero on their car may actually benefit them in the straights and actually perform nicely through a track that doesn't have any sort of inconsistency. I feel like that car could be nicely balanced around there.
And they weren't too bad in Canada, really.
Williams
overall
could be a possibility. They could be in the mix. Power circuit, like you said, low drag, high speed setup for Williams. I think there could be a scrap there. Force India. I think Force India might have the edge because Force India just look bloody good at the minute. I've got to say. So I think Force India got the edge. I think they've still scored points in every race. Both drivers still, haven't they? Up until this point.
Yes, I think so.
I mean, I don't know, but they're doing bloody brilliant. So
well, they're doing great. Yeah, I mean, Horner said that the performance is like swinging, and he's trying to. I think he's trying to pat down how good Force India are doing because he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I think it's circuit dependent really if they're ahead of us or not." But it's like no, consistently, I think they're pretty much level with you guys, pretty much in terms of like. Where you think they should be performing compared to what they are performing. In terms of expectation level, I think they're pretty much level with Red Bull in terms of that kind of expectation to actual end result. And I mean, we said it before, but compared to last season, Force India are doing a madness. And we thought that they may have issues falling behind with how much money you have to spend in this new formula with the aero. But, you know, they're doing a great job. Great job.
Yeah, we laughed when they said they wanted to be the third best team in F1. Obviously, their intention was to jump Ferrari, but they might actually jump Red Bull instead. Because Red Bull don't seem to be progressing, at least this season, anytime soon. I think they've already got eyes on next season. So, maybe. But I think we'll kick off with some predictions. I think I'll start. I've been pretty wise with predictions lately. I predicted, obviously, I got a clean sweep at Canada. Not with the top 5, but I predicted Hamilton race win and pole. I got Kimi's pole in Monaco spot on. So Bottas's win at Russia. So I've got a bit of a streak going, rough streak. So I'm going to go for Hamilton pole, Vettel win, Hamilton second, and this is when I'm going to throw the wild card. I'm going to say A Force India in third. I don't know which one.
Okay, A Force India in third. All right, I'll give you that.
Who do I go for? I'm going to say Bottas fourth and Raikkonen fifth.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to go for Hamilton pole, Hamilton win, Vettel second, Verstappen third. I want Ocon to get fourth, and then Raikkonen fifth.
I think my reasoning for forcing the podium is because sort of what we've seen this season, the overcut's very effective. I feel like that Force India could sort of stretch a tyre out like Ocon did at Canada because he went really long on the ultra softs. He went like 40 plus laps, more than the half race distance on ultra softs, and that got him in the race like for the end, battling with Perez and all that. So the overcut could be a big factor around there. So I'm gonna say forcing to pull off some sort of madness strategy. I don't know of what car, but especially after what happened at Canada with the sort of driver debate. So, that's why I've just gone for A Force India, but I think we could see something special happen.
Yeah, solid logic there. We didn't really touch upon it. Obviously, there was that kind of sort of, I don't want to say controversy, but just moment of obviously them not doing a driver swap and basically them eventually kind of admitting, I mean, by the time they decided that maybe yes, it's time for a swap, it was pretty much too late. They should have done it way earlier. But then towards the end of the race, when Vettel was actually getting there and was there was no point doing the swap by then. They should have done it. If they were going to do it, they had to do it much earlier. But it kind of looks like in hindsight, they couldn't predict that they would have fallen that badly if they had not done the swap.
Well, I don't know if you saw it or not, but you know, Ocon didn't know about it. So they were querying Perez and asking him, yo, can we swap you? But because he wouldn't agree to it, they didn't tell Ocon. So when Ocon got interviewed after the race, he was like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about it." I was angry because when we battled, he sort of blocked me really aggressively. He sort of swooped to the right and covered me off really aggressively for a teammate, inverted commas. So that's what he was angry about, not about the fact that he didn't swap him.
Well, I think that I mean, I haven't seen the interview, but from what you're saying there, it just sounds like Ocon's a real stand-up guy for not getting too pissed off then, because if like you heard afterwards, like, oh yeah, there was a chance for you to maybe overtake your teammate with ease and then maybe go off into the distance and catch the Red Bull car, but no, they'd said no, I would have got really peeved off straight at the moment. But that sounds like he kept really quite calm and professional. Yeah, it's good. From what we saw this year, going off from quite impressive little showing last year, Ocon is very, very solid. I'm very happy that he's there.
Expected.
And that pairing, Perez and Ocon, although a little bit of friction this last race, that overall that pairing is very, very solid. That's probably like the best Force India could have hoped for, really, with Hülkenberg leaving them. That they have Ocon there with Perez, and both of them, I think, play off each other quite well. Ocon's learning quite a lot from Perez. Equally, Perez being pushed by Ocon now. So yeah, solid pairing for Force India. Definitely, I think one of the teams on the biggest up. I think overall, you would say, bar Ferrari, obviously, but. Yeah, solid.
Force International.
Yeah. So I guess that's it, really. I think not much else to really say. I'm really looking forward to watching a Grand Prix fully live now, since it's been pretty much 2 weeks since the Monaco Grand Prix, since I watched the whole thing live. So looking forward to it. But guys, if you have any thoughts on what we've said in the podcast, let us know in the comments below. If you have enjoyed it, hit that like button. Do get subscribed to this channel for the podcast. Follow these two. Obviously, Callum went a little bit earlier, but follow both of them. Twitter links above our heads as usual, and links in the description. But we'll see you guys next time. Looking forward to finally reviewing a Grand Prix in a while. We'll see you guys then. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.